All right, I think look back should be fine now. Okay, so we finished step 1, which was setting up the virtual environment. All right, let's move to step 2, which is forking and cloning the repository. I will not fork the repository, I will only clone it, but you guys have to fork and then clone. So I'm going to take the link, go here, I'll say git clone the link. If I list what's in my directory, I see the folder, task 04. All right. So I go into task 04 and I'll install the requirements. And I'll go down and see what's next. So I did step number 4, which is installing the requirements. Now it says, create a model called restaurant with the following fields: name, description, opening time, and closing time. So first things first, I'm going to open up my project. Here it is. And if you notice, there's already an app for you called Restaurants. Which file do you think I should go to? Models.py. Okay. Now, we said models are always what? Classes. So I'll say class. What should I call it? Restaurant. All right. And the most important thing is, remember, classes should always be singular. فالاسم لازم يكون فردي وأول حرف لازم يكون capital. All right. تمام. Now, how do I know that this class is a model? I have to say models.model. So this restaurant is a model because I'm giving it this. Okay? Now, the task said it wants the model to have the following fields: name, description, opening time, and closing time. So I'm going to take that. All right. Now I have to think, what kind of value do I want to store into name? Maybe a char field. Why? Because I want to save a string. So I'll say models.char field, right? And description is also a string, right? I want to save a string value, so I'll say models.text field. What's the difference between a char field and a text field? The size. I need to set a maximum limit for the char field, but I don't need to do that for the text field. So I'll say maximum length equal to, let's say 30. I don't need to do that for the text field. All right. Now, what about opening time and closing time? A time field. So I'll say models.time field. All right. I'll do the same exact thing here. Now again, spelling here is very important. Char field. C should be capital, F should be capital. If you're not sure of what the name of the field is or how you should spell it, Google it. Go to, for example, Django model field types and see what kind of fields there are. All right. So maybe you don't even know what type of field to use, right? How did you know there was a time field? صار في شوية تشير وفي منكم استخدموا جوجل، صح؟ ما السعوديين يستخدمون كلمة تشير؟ تشير يعني تأليف؟ تأليف؟ اوكي تأليف اوكي تمام. صار في شوية تأليف، بعض الناس لا جوجل which is normal. Alright. If I want to know what kind of fields there are, I just Google and I see the field types. Auto field, integer field, binary, boolean. So look, I see that there's a date field And I see that there's also a date time field. So I can use date, I can use time, or I can store date and time. All right? Cool. Any questions so far? All right. So for now, I'm going to keep this as it is. Now I saved this file. Does that mean that my model has been created now? Why? What do I need to do? I need to do something related to migrations, right? So I need to apply, to be more specific, 2 commands. What are these 2 commands that I need to apply? So one of them is Python manage.py make migrations. What does this do? It creates the changes that I need. It creates the changes that I want to make to the database. All right, what about migrate? What does migrate do? Applies the changes. So make migrations, makes the changes, migrate, applies them. All right, so now, how can I interact with this model? So I need to create a super user. What's this super user? It's an admin user. Where does this admin user go? To the admin page. All right, so I'll say Python manage.py create super user. Give him a name. I'll skip the email and give him a password. All right. Any questions so far? Yes. Yes. Very good questions. When do I need to do make migrations? Anytime you change anything related to the model, you use make migrations and migrate. Always. Anything outside of models, you don't need to worry about migrations. Only models. Yes. Migrations, it's all related to changes related to your database. Any other questions? Yes. Is it? Of course, all passwords are encrypted. I'll show you in a bit. Any other questions? Yes. Yes, there is. So if you type ls, you'll see that it's using a SQLite database. So this is just a database that it uses by default. You can configure your project to use any other database like Postgres, MongoDB, MySQL, Oracle, up to you. Any other questions? All right. So now that we have a super user, let's go and run the server. I'll go to the URL /admin, log in with the user that I created, and one of your classmates asked a good question, is the password encrypted? So if you go into the user and you look at the password field, you'll see something that looks like this. All right. If you try to create a user and you don't encrypt his password, Django will not let you. If you try to create a user and you don't encrypt his password, Django will not let you use this user. So one of the good things that Django does, it tries to keep you from doing as many stupid mistakes as possible. So encrypting your password is a must. How does it encrypt your password? It does it on 3 different levels. You can Google that later. All right? Any other questions? All right. So we created a model which is called restaurant, but we don't see it here, right? Why? We need to go to admin.py. What do we need to do in admin.py? Register the model. Right. So what I need to do here, import the model, right? So I'll say from dot models, import restaurant. Why dot models? Because they're both in the same folder. So I'm saying from here, go to models and import restaurant. All right? Cool. So does this mean that now my model is, does this mean that my model is now registered to the admin page? Not yet. I need to say admin dot site dot register restaurant. All right. Now, if I go back and refresh, I see my restaurant model. Go in. Now I can start adding objects. I'll say, for example, bake, today's lunch. I don't know what time they open, but whatever. Let's say 6 a.m. 8? All right, 8 a.m. We gotta be precise with anything that comes to bake. And we'll do this, let's say closes at 10. 3 a.m. Okay, wow. All right. So we'll save that. Now we have a restaurant object. But let's say I had lots of restaurants stored here. This isn't really that descriptive, right? I don't want to have to go inside of every restaurant and see what's its name, right? So the simplest way to do this would be, I use something called a str function. All right? So def, create a function, 2 underscores, okay, and take self as a parameter, and I return self.name, okay? So what self represents is each instance of restaurant, each restaurant object. So if I'm talking about al-bake, self is al-bake. If I'm talking about McDonald's, self is McDonald's. All right? Cool. So again, keep in mind 2 underscores, 2 underscores. Now, when it comes to Python, indentation is important, spacing is important. These fields need to make sure that they are indented inside the class. This function needs to make sure that it's indented inside the class. All right? Parentheses over here. يعتمد. لحظة، قصدك الأقواس المدورة ولا هذيلي؟ Functions always. However, إذا قاعد تعرف كلاس وفاضي اللي داخله تقدر تسويها بدون. فمو شرط تحط أقواس إذا ماكو parameters حق الكلاس. ولكن الفانكشن دائما في أقواس. Any other questions? All right, let's try this out. Let's see what happens when I do this. I refresh. I see the restaurant title now. Is that all of the task? Yeah. Any other questions on this? Yes. How to push? Sure. So, actually I don't want to push because if I push, I'm going to change what's on this GitHub, but I'll show you how. So if you finished your work and you cloned it properly, all you need to do is git add, git commit, and then just git push. I'm not going to push because I don't want to overwrite the work. All right. Any other questions? hear you.
This one's sent to digest.
Oh, okay, yeah. So let's go back to the code just to give you guys some time to digest. So this is everything we did. Take your time, maybe you'll think of some questions. Yes? You don't need to create a local repository. Why? Because you are already pulling this project. You only want to create a local repository if you're starting a project from scratch. It's already there. I'll give you guys about 2 more minutes to let's digest, and then I'll prep for the next lesson. Excuse me? Yes, you can. So if you wanted to change the database, let me just keep this up here. So in your settings file, there's a dictionary called databases. See the default? Default is what? SQLite 3. You can change this and set it up however you like. If you want to read more about this, literally gives you a link to where you can read about it. One second. So for example, if you wanted to change to PostgreSQL, your database dictionary would look something like this. Right? I'll send you guys this link in case you're interested. So I'm going to stop the look back session and make sure that it's